StarCraft 2 and the esports scene.
Hello, and welcome to the podcast, everyone.
Yes, welcome everyone as I finally unmute.
Glad you remembered to do that this time.
Yep, nailed it. First time.
Yep. You've only had nearly 5 years of practice.
True.
Yeah.
Just, just improving, getting better every day. That's my motto.
Small steps.
Right. Everyone's just got to do small steps. That's all. That's all we got to do.
That's all you got to do.
And if you forget to unmute to start a podcast, that's a step back. But
as long, forgetting to unmute is like a small issue, right? Because someone will pick up on it pretty quickly. Forgetting to hit the record button, now that's a bad one.
That's a big step backwards. Correct.
Yeah, and it's been a while since we've done that, but it has happened. That's usually my fault.
Yeah, 100%. That happens to me when I'm recording my cast too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like the worst ones, I feel the dumbest when it's like the recording stops 2 minutes in because I ran out of hard disk space. I wasn't paying attention. It's like,
that one always amazes me because I don't think I've ever managed to fill up a drive ever. Like,
yeah.
The other day I was looking through one of my drives and I'm like, I have all these videos downloaded from all the stuff I bought from the Microsoft Store. I haven't watched them in forever. I don't need them saved here. I'm going to remove them. I removed 1.3 terabytes of data from my drive.
That's a chunk.
Yeah, that's a chunk, but it wasn't even half full.
Oh, right, because drives are big these days.
Yeah, huge.
Yeah. Well,
So,
I guess
I don't know how you fill it up is what I'm saying.
Well, when a 20-minute StarCraft 2 video recorded in 1440p is 10 gigabytes, and I do like one or two of those every day, it adds up. Yeah. That plus I am creating a final version of it in HitFilm Express with the intro and the outro and stuff.
Okay.
And so that's another version of it that sits there on the drive. So I've been trying to do a better job over the last few months of cleaning that up. Deleting the originals, only keeping the final version, and then moving the final versions out to another external 8 terabyte drive when I'm done with them. So usually keep them around for about 6 weeks, and then if it's older than 6 weeks, I'll get rid of the cruft and dump it over on the external, and that seems to be working. I haven't run out of hard drive space in a while.
Fair enough. I
mean, video recording is heavy on storage space.
It's true. That is very true. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a reason why I don't record this locally. I just let Twitch hold it, and I can push 2 buttons and send it to YouTube, and it's done.
Genius.
Yeah. Big brain.
Genius.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, to start things off, I guess I just want to talk about something that we did before the podcast.
Like what? We don't do anything before the podcast. That would be a waste of material.
It's an excellent point. So you familiar with the Conan versus Paul Rudd thing that's been going on for a long time?
Oh, very familiar. I'm a big fan of Paul Rudd. I've been paying attention to this situation for like the last 20 years. He comes onto the show. He's always got a clip to play. It's great. Love it.
Yeah. So actually, I'm trying to figure out when he started doing this. Because I swear it dates back to the 90s. Like, it is so old.
Fair enough, yeah.
That I remember seeing this back when he was, like, at the 1 a.m. slot. Like, when nobody wants to do it. And Conan was a smaller name, but people loved him still.
Sure.
Like, super young Paul Rudd. And why can't I find the first time this happened?
I don't know. I'm not actually that big of a fan. I'm just pretending to be. Paul Rudd.
I know. Here it is. Oh, I'm wrong. It's 04.
Okay.
So not quite the 90s, but I mean, good chunk of time ago now still. Yeah, so what he does is he shows up on Conan's show and you're promoting something if you're on a late night talk show, obviously. And Paul Rudd's like, I got this TV show I'm working on, or I've got a movie that's coming out soon, and here's a clip.
Yep.
And then he shows a clip from the horrible McDonald's placement product in Mac and Me.
Mac and Me. I've literally never heard of Mac and Me before today.
Correct, because it's horrible.
Right.
So that's what makes this as good as it is. It's a clip where a kid in a wheelchair goes down an embankment off a cliff.
Uh-huh.
It's like 100 feet in the air and into water.
Mm-hmm.
And then the alien, who's a big part of the show, like looks at the camera and goes, "Oh." And it's the dumbest, like silliest 20-second clip you can find of anything, I think, on the internet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It had a budget of $13 million and had a box office domestic of $6.4 million. So
Yeah, and it is heavily McDonald's product placed. If you find any clips from this online, they're like at McDonald's 80% of the movie.
fair enough.
So it's not good. So yeah, so Paul Rudd does this in 04, and Conan's like, come on, what is this? And he's like, it's a little joke I'm playing on. He's always so pleased too that he's fooled Conan. And then he's done it, I don't know how many times since, but I would say at least once a year since 2004.
Wow.
And pretty much every time Conan's like, all right, man, I know what this is. And then they throw it up and it's Mac and Me again.
Mm-hmm.
And Paul Rudd is greatly pleased with himself and the audience loves it because it's a recurring bit and audiences love recurring bits.
That's true. Yeah.
And so Conan's got a podcast that he's doing now called Conan Needs a Friend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he had Paul Rudd on, and Paul Rudd's like, I've got a project I'm working on. And he goes on for 2.5 minutes talking about the people he's working on the project with, what they're doing, what their goals and their vision is. Just on and on and on and on and on and on and on. And then he's like, I brought a clip actually from it.
And it's Mac and Me.
And it's Mac and Me, of course it is. And they've got a monitor set up in the room they're podding in.
Mm-hmm.
So Conan can see it as it comes up, as his production assistant throws this up on the monitor. And Conan, and was he in on this? I don't know. There's a good chance he was, because it's his podcast. Like, would his production manager hide this from him? Maybe not.
Maybe not. I mean, I think it's like Conan's supposed to be a funny guy. Maybe he came up with the idea. And he's like, yeah, do it even though it's an audio podcast. Do it.
It's entirely possible.
Yeah.
Very much so. So Conan just spends a lot of time being like, it's an audio medium. It doesn't work.
So,
But I guess there is the audio cue at the beginning of someone going, Alex, who's the kid in the wheelchair, and then the stupid music, and then the splashing sound. So like, he's like, I know what it is because I've seen it 800,000 times, and I can pick up on the audio cues of what clip this is, even if I can't see it.
right.
Yeah. So, and again, just my favorite part of the whole thing is how just pleased Paul Rudd is when this happens. He's just smiling. He's so happy. Like, he's the happiest he ever is in his whole life. He shows this clip to Conan for the 800th time. Anyway, I'm just happy to see the tradition continue because it's one of my favorite ones.
The real question is, why this movie? I mean, obviously, why this clip? I mean, the clip's funny, right?
Get in a wheelchair off a cliff into water.
I get
Come
that.
on.
I get that.
Okay.
But how did Paul Rudd pick this? He's not even in that movie.
Correct.
And
I don't know,
judging by
Maybe
its box office return, I doubt he saw it in theaters.
That's a great question. Because is 04 before YouTube?
2005?
05.
I think.
Yeah, so December 05. So he pulled this off before YouTube's a thing. So it's not like he was browsing one day and someone had this clip uploaded to YouTube and he was like, heck yes, I have found what I've been looking for, right?
Right, yeah.
He had to have gotten it, I don't know, from some other unknown video hosting site from back then, or maybe he had a friend who worked for the production company and he can get it for him. Yeah. That's a great question.
Yeah. Because when was the first time he did this, we found out?
04.
04, so it was pre-YouTube, yeah.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
So
like,
someone must have he must have asked someone to clip him a reel of it, like literally take apart a film and be like, here is just a VHS tape of a kid in a wheelchair falling off a cliff. Which makes it much more enjoyable knowing you had to put in the effort. It wasn't like right click save video, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there were, again, I mentioned this earlier, but there were online video hosting sites before YouTube.
It's true.
right? So it's entirely possible somebody was like on albino black sheep or something and was like, hey, remember this stupid scene from this 1994 movie that nobody saw? And it just got a million clicks and shares everywhere. And that's how Roadrunner came across it, right?
Maybe. I think it's much more likely that him working in the film industry was able to get his hands on something like that.
Yeah.
I think much more easily. I don't think.
No, but that's how he got his hands on it, sure. But like deciding that was the one that he wanted to use.
Well, yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, that I don't like that because that makes it less funny if it's not really his joke. Like if someone else like clipped it and was like, "Huh, look at this funny thing," and then he goes, "I'm gonna take that and put it on Conan as my own thing," right? Like,
that's a good point.
I don't like that as much. If it was like one day in like 2004, Paul Rudd's in university or college or something, he wanders down to Video Easy, right? Or Blockbuster or something, and he's just like, I'm gonna rent something that looks like trash, and gets that and goes, this is awful, but one scene in it is brilliant, and then goes out of his way to like find someone with a reel of it and make a copy. That's way better. Yeah.
Entirely possible.
Yeah.
I mean, he's gosh darn 52 years old because he's one of those immortals.
It's true. Yeah.
So he was born in 1969. So he would be a full-grown, a very adult man by the time this movie came out.
Well, the movie came out in 88.
Oh, was it 88?
Yeah.
Okay, so he was 22 then.
He came out in when? 69? 71? 79? What'd you say?
69.
69. So that would make him like 19 when the movie came in. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't
maybe he just saw it as a terrible movie. Like he was like, it's out in theaters, I'll go see it. Or in any of the 20 years previous, like since. Wait, that means he was like 40 when he started going on Conan.
Right.
That's incredible.
Well, and like Blockbuster didn't come around until 85, and only in Texas at first.
Right, but by I don't know. I mean,
hold on. Renting movies in 88? I'm trying to remember. I was alive, but I was like 6. So
right. I wasn't alive.
No. By 88, Blockbuster was America's leading video chain with 400 stores in the country. Okay. So yeah, he could have easily, with a bunch of friends, one weekend, let's go get a movie, and they see this this weird thing with a kid in a wheelchair and aliens and like McDonald's product placement, and they're like, awesome.
Yeah, possibly. Or he was like at college or whatever, doing like a film class, learning to be an actor, and he was told, hey, go out and watch a terrible movie. I have this recommendation, and use it as a studying guide. Like, what not to do in filmmaking.
Yeah, entirely possible. We're probably spending way too much time on this, but
oh, probably, yeah.
In the end, I think we can agree it's a pretty hilarious video clip to show over and over and over on Conan's show for 15 years.
Yeah. Yep. God,
anywho, that's that.
52.
Yeah.
Doesn't look it.
No, he doesn't. No. I was actually watching a video. This is video game related. But I watched a video where somebody was trying to figure out what generation CEOs for gaming companies are from at this point.
Okay.
And because I just want to know if they were baby boomers or if they were Gen X, right?
Sure.
So he's talking through that. And he runs across, hang on a second, I'm going to find.
What are you looking for?
Yeah, so it's a blog post that he made.
Okay.
And I watched it today. Here we go. Boomers versus video games. Let me see if we can find. He doesn't have it there. Anyway, who is it? There's one CEO that is definitely a boomer. He's definitely old.
Right.
But he looks like he's about 35. And I'm trying to remember what company he worked for because it was one that we've heard of.
Okay.
He was going through it here. So let's see. Kotick, no. Here it is. Zaus Zelnick of Take-Two Interactive.
Oh, okay.
So he was born in 57.
Okay. Yeah, he's an old man.
Right, and there's our guy. There's a picture that he found of him like running, and he just doesn't even nearly look like it. And
Well, this picture, I mean, is not him looking young.
not so much, no.
Not so much.
The Wikipedia one is not as flattering as some other ones that exist out there. Oh, here's the one. Here's the actual photo that he used.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like that man. He
I
was
mean,
born in the 50s.
I mean,
Crikey.
just barely. Like,
You're not buying it.
I mean, that could be a body double. Photoshop does wonderful things these days.
Entirely possible. Could be a fake.
I
Could
mean,
be him releasing it to make people think he looks younger than he is.
it's true, but I mean, he does look good in that photo. I mean, it is taken at somewhat of a distance. Not a lot of facial clarity going on, but
True.
his physique is on point. Not rocking a dad bod.
Right.
Yeah.
He's active. He's keeping active, which is important.
And he makes video games. Well, he's in charge of a company that makes video games.
Right. So the point that was being made in this article, though, was that the guy who was writing it feels like the older generation of boomers didn't grow up with video games.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They were adults by the time this stuff happened, so they don't have the kid experience with it. And they don't identify with it as much as someone who was a Gen Xer or a millennial would, right?
Sure. I mean, I'm just gonna state that I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think there are more adults who play video games than children, just by sheer weight of numbers. Kids might play more hours or for longer times, but
Sure, but just your relationship with video games is different when you're a kid versus when you're an adult.
sure.
Generally,
But if you want to sell video games, you need to sell it to the people who can pay for it, and the more the people who can pay for it, the better. So I think it's totally reasonable that there should be CEOs of game developers that were adults when video games took off. That makes sense to me.
yeah. But obviously they're dying off because
They're
boomers are old as dirt at this point.
Right.
So there are a bunch of Gen Xers, Xbox. So man, Phil Spencer, who is the gaming head for Xbox.
Sure.
Like it's incredible how much he's over now with how much Microsoft has acquired over the last 5 years or so, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Microsoft
So
combined
he's a Gen
everybody.
Xer and he's in charge of everything Xbox, everything Microsoft, everything Activision, everything. What was the other one? ZeniMax.
No, yeah, Bethesda and ZeniMax, yeah.
Yep. Bethesda. It's just the world of Microsoft gaming has gotten real big,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and it's a Gen Xer who's over the whole thing. But yeah. Anyway, the point is, I don't know. I just kind of disagree with him on that. I just think I don't know that generational differences make as much of a difference as he was trying to argue that it does.
Mm.
And I just think it's as easy for someone who's a Gen Xer or a millennial or even a Gen Zer to be a cynical, money-focused bastard in charge of gaming who doesn't care about the games at all and only seeks to maximize profits in every possible way and doesn't care about the gaming experience, right?
Right. I mean, he has a picture here where he's basically saying, I assume this is what from the...
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like Xbox is Gen X, Epic Games is Gen X, Bethesda is Gen X. Take-Two, that's a boomer. Activision's so boomer, but it's in transition. Ubisoft, which has boomer energy, which I don't know what that means. Either they're a boomer or they're not.
Right. I think he was trying to mix it up a little bit. He didn't just want to write boomer every time for some reason. I don't know why.
Sure. And then it's basically all Gen X until you get to Valve, which is weird because Valve doesn't make games anymore. Or at least not regularly anyway.
Yeah, I mean, Alex would say, "Shut up, we make games once every 15 years."
Sure. That is theoretically an argument you could make. But they mostly just sell games, and yeah.
And they make $1 billion off of that every day, so they're fine. They're doing great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would also like to say that Like Activision Blizzard, clearly very money hungry. Ubisoft, very money hungry. But so is EA and King, right?
Right.
I
And
mean,
that's the point, is they're all pretty money hungry no matter when they were born.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
There's definitely varying degrees of how scumbaggy some of these companies are. Like I would say Xbox is probably on the like nicer end. They offer a good value for money deal with what's the thing
Like
called?
the Game Pass thing.
Game Pass, that's it, yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas like King is, which actually King's owned by Activision, so I don't know why it's a separate thing here.
He recognizes that in the article and in the video. He says, yeah. So King got acquired by Activision, who's now owned by Microsoft. So
right,
Phil Spencer again.
it's true. Well, that deal hasn't been finalized yet.
Right. And right. But in progress, in transition, as he says.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. EA.
The less said about them, the better.
Yeah.
The worst.
If we talk about them, they might try to buy this podcast and kill it.
I mean, if they want to buy us for like $50 million, I'm okay with that. Yeah, or $1 billion, sure.
No, I refuse to sell it to EA.
What? We would have some very serious talks on
I'm like, no, I'm not going to sell to EA, but I am going to take that Raid Shadow Legend sponsorship money.
Oh man,
call me EA. We can work something out.
So principled, such a principled man you are.
Thank you. I'm so humble too. I know.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
All right.
So GSL continues to march along.
That it does, GSL. Let's have a little look-see, because I watched some of the games from the most recent group.
Yeah, I watched pretty much all of it. I wasn't like completely focused on some of the matches, but I was listening at least.
C went through, which was Rogue, Beyond, Zhaon, and Nightmare.
Right.
Yeah. Any surprises?
I don't feel like I've heard of Nightmare before.
No,
Not a good sign.
I don't think I'd heard of him.
Yeah,
but I could be wrong. Oh, I mean, managed to take a map off Beyond and a map off Rogue, so it can't be too bad. Yeah.
No, very true. Like, he didn't just get smoked. I mean, he didn't progress. He didn't move on, but like he didn't get blanked either. So that's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm wondering. Oh yeah, go.
I mean, just Rogue, just kind of casually making it through, dropping a single map the whole time.
I mean, who's surprised by this?
Nobody.
Nobody. Yeah. I mean, he only had to fight Protoss, and Protoss clearly just received a massive nerf. Makes sense.
It's true. Those forward shield batteries that Nightmare or Zhaon didn't do at all.
Well, I mean, they would have if they hadn't been nerfed, obviously.
Oh.
They would have made more Void Rays. I mean, they made some Void Rays, but they could have had more and faster out, and they would have won those games. It's true, I did the math. But I will say, we are 3 out of 4 groups done, and not a... Oh, no, 3 out of 5 groups done, excuse me. And not a single Protoss is advanced.
I mean, Trap hasn't played yet, but yeah. Probably just going to be Trap at this point.
Yeah. Possibly Trap. Well, it's not a Trap creator and hero. So...
Yeah. I mean, Trap and Creator could make it out of Group D, but the way Solar played at Kato, I don't know.
It's going to be unlikely.
Yeah. One thing I did note from the broadcast, though, from Tastosis, was that they noted that Beyond was kind of just doing the same thing in PvTs every single map.
Yep, he was. Just powering up on 2 bases.
Yeah, 2 bases, goes for double medevac drops. Gets a third at the same time. Open Widowmine drop, right? Because of course.
Yeah.
And they just noted in one of those games, he got a Widowmine drop that got 12 probe kills.
It's true. I saw that.
And then instead of like following up on it, maybe pressuring a little bit, he's like, nope, we're just robotically doing the same thing I always do. Not adjusting to the situation at all. Right? You're going to get 2 more medevacs, going to get some Marines and go for a drop at 5 minutes. I'm up 20 workers on my opponent right now, but I'll let them power up a little bit. It's fine.
I don't know.
You disagree?
I mean, he could stand to be a little more flexible in what he's doing, but at the same time, if you get ahead and like you want to stick to your game plan, that's a good thing too, right? Like if you think what you're doing is the right way to win, like this the way you feel the most comfortable getting the W, then getting 12 probe kills is like great. My enemy's behind. I'm just gonna do what I'm doing. I'm comfortable here. I'm gonna set the pace of the game.
Yeah, I mean, as Day9 said many years ago, if you're ahead, get more ahead.
Exactly.
That's one way to do it. You can try to kill your opponent by being aggressive after you've murdered their economy, but also just continuing to be 20 workers up for the next 5 minutes is also pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going back to the players who have gone through, we have 3 Terrans and 3 Zergs so far, which is remarkable, which means if Trap Creator and Hero will get out, it'll be 3-3-4. Which would be perfectly balanced. So let's hope Protoss come in hard for the last 2 groups.
It's as perfect as you can get. There would be really no complaining there, I don't think.
I mean, it's still possible, but given the fact that 4 Protoss have already been eliminated, it seems unlikely.
True.
Unlikely. Yep.
Yeah. And again, in Group D, the way that Solar's been playing, it's rough for both Creator and Trap to get out of that, I think.
Right, exactly. Who's versing who first there? First is Trap, Gumiho, Creator, Solar. Okay. So Trap over Gumiho, and then I'd put Solar over Creator.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And I did just cast Gumio in the Africa World last week, and his TVZ series against Dongregu was insane. Like, I think it's the best I've seen Gumio play ever. It was some of the most concerted pressure that never, ever, ever gave up at all for 25 minutes until Dongregu died. Like, there was never a minute where DRG was like, all right, I got some time to breathe. I'm going to fire up 15 drones. I'm going to tech up, which is like, nope. I am getting murdered on every side the whole time. And he 3-0'd him. And so I know that Dongregu is not quite at the level of Solar, but I just think Gumio's TVZ looked. He's been working on it. Is what I guess what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm just saying I wouldn't be shocked if he made it out of this group, or at least was able to beat Solar in their little thing.
Maybe. I guess we'll find out tomorrow.
I guess we'll find out at 3:30 in the morning. I mean, at 10 in the morning on their YouTube channel. That's what I do.
You're not gonna get up and watch it?
No. I'm actually taking work off to next week, so
you should do it then. Why not?
Next week, the 4th through the 8th. So I mean, that gives me Group E. But then it doesn't pick up on the group stage 2 until after my time off is over. So that's
you should just take more time off. That's the solution to that.
That is true. I should.
Yeah.
God, it was so funny. So there's 3 of us that are doing testing for the cloud right now, but for years and years it was just me.
Okay.
And so I was like, I'm taking next week off, and he was like, but one of your other QA people is already taking it off. And I was like, look, man, the remaining person on this team can handle it, because literally I was the only person testing this thing for 3 or 4 years. And he's like, really? I didn't know that. And I'm like, yep. So we can both be gone and he can handle it, because there's not a big release coming out. We just did the thing. We got it out. And so it's not like there's a billion hours of testing that needs to be done. It's nice to have 3 people when that's happening, for sure.
Sure, yeah.
But when that's not the case, there's just not as much to do when one person can hold it down, I think. So boss was like, yeah, that's fine. Sounds good. So
I mean, if I tried to tell my boss I want to take like next week off, I think he might shoot me, because it's like the weekend before Christmas. Not Christmas, Easter.
Right. And that's it. Timing matters. If I'd been like, I need a week off during the big testing cycle for the big, huge release we're doing, then yes, he would have said no.
Exactly.
Absolutely true.
Exactly.
Of course, there's not nearly as much redundancy in your job either.
No, there is not.
Yeah, so if you ever want to go take a week off, even if it's not hot cross buns time,
Mm-hmm.
then your boss is going to be like, how about no?
Yeah, I mean, they can only say no so many times.
Yes.
Like I mean, thankfully my holidays accrue; they don't expire at the end of the year or anything. So
Yeah, but you got to be able to use them. It doesn't matter if you have like 800 hours of time off accrued if you can't, if you never are able to take it.
once it starts getting accrued, my boss will get a email from the head office being like, "Some of your staff have way too much time sitting around.
Oh,
Yeah, you
that's
gotta
nice.
make them spend some."
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
That's good. I'm glad they do that because I've had coworkers like I had coworkers that had accrued time off that carried over year to year to year to year, and they never took it. They never took enough to get through it anyway, right?
Mm.
They had 300 hours of time off, and then we swapped over to a different model
Mm-hmm.
and said, all that accrued time off is gone unless you use it before the end of the year. And there wasn't enough time to do that, so they just ate hundreds and hundreds of hours of time off that they never got, and they never
Right.
saw it. And I was always like, ugh.
I mean, yeah. I know some of the time off, if we were to leave the position, like be like, peace out, I'm out of here, I got a new job, they'd actually pay out the time owed. Does your company do that? Or would they have been that option? Have it paid out?
Did they pay that out?
Because I mean, it's owed to you.
Yeah, no, I mean, in fairness, definitely should have.
Mm-hmm.
100%. I don't think they did, because I don't remember talking to any of these people and they were very happy because they just gotten a huge check written to them for all this time off, right? They were
Right.
bummed and they were mad
Uh-huh.
because they just lost it, and I don't think they were compensated for it.
Yeah.
And I think the way the employer tried to like make it work was by announcing it in like July, right? And so feasibly, sure, you can take a bunch of time off before the end of the year and get through that. But these people that had weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks of it and work to do, right?
There's always work
I
to
mean,
do.
there's always work to do, couldn't get through it all.
Right.
So I think the employer was just like, we gave you 6 months to figure it out, and you didn't. So welcome to the new model.
Gross.
Yeah, super gross. It was. Should put that on anti-work. They'd eat that stuff up. That would get like 10,000 upvotes.
Yeah, probably.
It would. I'm not even kidding.
Anything on anti-work gets 10,000 upvotes. People are making a job of browsing anti-work. It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anywho.
Yeah.
Anywho, I did one thing I have noticed though is that change to the lurker burrow time when you have adaptive talons, or it's not as fast as it used to be.
Sure,
That's nice. I did notice that making a difference in that TVZ, especially between Gumio and Dongray Gu, where the lurkers, yeah, they get up, and it used to be like they show up, boom, they're planted.
Right.
Like you blink and they're there. And now it's a bunch more time where they're working their way into the ground and they're taking extra shots from marauders and ghosts and stuff before they can actually defend themselves. So it's not huge, but at the highest level, yeah, I think it makes a difference. I really do.
Fair enough.
So we'll see how that plays out more and more in GSL.
Yeah.
Overall, I just think the latest balance patch was pretty good. The more I'm seeing of it.
I mean, I think it's fine.
Yeah,
I think we had this conversation on stream where it's like they made a lot of little changes, and not even a lot of little changes. They made a small amount of small changes, right? Like
sure. Nothing like changed the meta of anything.
Yeah, no. Like
although, I mean, again, it discourages forward battery placement stuff.
Yeah, yes. We haven't seen any of those, but it's also been out for like a month on the patch. And
Zerg players have pretty much figured out how to bring their own creep across the other side of the map so that queens can transfuse. That hasn't been as much of a problem.
No. I'm seeing a lot more overlords coming all over and spewing creep everywhere, or Nidus worms to pop out tumors and stuff. So Zergs don't mind. We're still seeing Void Ray openings from Protoss and GSL. I mean, they're losing, but we're still seeing them.
It might take some time before Protoss finally give it up. Yeah, definitely noticed that too. Or reducing or increasing the build time and increasing the cost. It's not out as fast as they used to be. And again, in lower level games, it doesn't matter. But at the highest level, where 30 seconds is a big deal, it's a big deal.
Did you see Rogue went mutas against, I think it was Zhaon, who had a...
Yes.
He went like Void Rays into Phoenixes once he realized it was mutas. And he was just like, no, I'm just going to depower your Stargates.
That's Rogue, man. I don't think there's another Zerg player out there who will go mutas in ZVP 1 and 2. Once there's a flock of 15 Phoenix out, be like, I'm still making mutas. Good luck to you, sir. He's insane. But he's so good with them. And yeah, he won. It wasn't just chill. Like, yeah, like I said, depower the Stargates. Don't engage with the Phoenix because you don't really have to. Anyway.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I mean, really, Rogue's he's a monster. And I'm sure every Protoss in the world fears him, fears him immensely.
That's better. Yeah. Probably.
And fails against him.
There we go.
That was the English I was going for, I guess.
Well, it's hard. English isn't your first language. It's fine.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. True. I was actually at my kid's school today. So I'm going to try to make this quick, but basically my kids are at a charter school, which just means that they're technically a private school. They're not public, but the parents request that the state send the tax money that would go to their kids in a public school and send them to the charter school instead. Right. So for whatever reason, this school has attracted a lot of like immigrant families, like a ton of Indian families and Hispanic families and families from Asia, Japan, China, Korea, whatever. And so it's a really diverse school, which is awesome. And it's great. Like I mean, my kids have way more experience to other cultures and other languages than I ever had growing up. Like my experience growing up was like the white breadest of white bread you can possibly ever get, I think.
Yeah, Utah 50 years ago and Utah today are two different times. It's true.
Correct.
Yeah.
Very true.
I mean,
yeah, my youngest brother who's in high school now, way more non-white kids in the school, which again, good thing, I think.
There might be more foreigners at your your kid's school today than there were in Utah when you were at high school.
Fairly possible. We'd have to do some kind of a census. But I was there for a presentation, and they just talked about some of the teachers and how they really, really focus on immersion English as a second language stuff.
Okay.
So they'll get these kids who come up from India, and like they've gotten some English instruction in school because English is really popular in India. So they don't just come with nothing.
Sure.
But they're pretty young, and their English isn't that great, and like they don't put them in special English as a second language classes. They just put them in with the other kids. And yeah, within months, like they just pick it up and they're speaking English like a native speaker, and it's really pretty amazing to see. So anyway. Very cool stuff. Just when you said English was my second language, it just reminded me of that.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Does the school have a mandatory another language class? Because like when I went to high school, it was like you have to learn Italian. The school wasn't big enough to offer any choices, but there are schools here that offer choices. What are your kids learning, or what will they when you get old enough?
So for whatever reason, this particular charter school program has decided their kids will learn Latin.
Oh, Latin, excellent.
Yeah.
That old dead language that nobody speaks, apparently, according to you. I mean, I'm pretty sure your brother's he's a Latin teacher. Yeah.
We've had this discussion. Right.
Yes.
So it's Latin. When I was in school, they offered French and Spanish.
Okay.
So at least there was a choice. Yeah.
But yeah. Fair enough.
Anyway, so it's Latin. And I tell you, my kids struggled with it a lot at first. They start you when you're 12 with that.
Oh, yeah.
And so when he started it, it was rough. But man, he's really taken to it. It took him about 6 months, but
Mm.
It's not a big deal anymore. So again, I don't know what practical applications we have for this really, but as far as an
Uh,
understanding of base language concepts that Romance languages come from, sure.
uh, the churches in the area want to ignore the uh, it's called Vatican II, where they basically made it formal within the church to do the Sunday service in the language of the area. And before that, all the services were held in Latin. So all the churches want to go back to Latin. So the high schools and schools are teaching all the kids Latin so they can understand their services on Sundays.
Oh.
That is the practical application. Either that or it's witchcraft.
Really useful for spell casting.
Yeah, I thought it was weird that they had languages and then a D&D class right after, but you kind of get used to it after a while.
I don't know. I just think everybody in my state should learn Spanish because there's a ton of Spanish speaking going on.
Yeah, Spanish, good to learn. Yeah.
Useful.
Yeah.
It's regional though, for sure. Like there are a lot of places in California where learning Chinese would be incredibly useful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that. Yep.
This kind of varies from spot to spot, I would say.
I mean, I think long term, the effects of students who aren't interested in learning any languages in high school is that they will immediately forget everything they learned one day after graduation, right? Like you might remember like a word or two here and there, but if you're not interested in learning that language, it doesn't matter what they offer you or what's useful even.
Right. True.
Yeah.
Legitimate point.
Source, I don't remember any Italian. other than the word stronzo, which means fucko.
Oh. Of course.
And I learned that from Assassin's Creed 2.
Oh, yeah. No, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
What a great game Assassin's Creed 2 is. So speaking of video games and TV adaptations, I'd like to give you some time to do some ranting about the Halo TV show that was released on Paramount Plus last week. And they're doing a week-to-week episode thing, right?
They are, and I hate that.
You do hate that.
I hate that because it's been 6 days since the last episode came out, and in those 6 days, I've grown as a person. And I don't think I need to rant about how bad that TV show is.
Well, I mean, calling it that bad TV show, I think that's probably good enough.
Yeah.
I just like to leave it there.
Look, I think the show might be enjoyable as another sci-fi property, but because they're like taking in, like you described it as playing with the bones of Halo. They've got all these characters and things, but they don't have them in the right places, and they're not doing the things that I think they should be doing as like accurate to their characters. So it just makes me, it throws off all the preconceptions I should have about what these characters are about to do or where the story might unfold or even just how the world should work. For instance, slipspace, which is their method of using faster than light travel to get around the universe. As a function of that, you can't... I vaguely remember there not being able to have any communications with other ships or satellites or planets or any communication beyond what's on their ship. And so when they're in space, they would drop out comm buoys and stuff like that to send out a message if they were in slip and needed to send a message out. So they have a little probe that basically drops out of slip space for them. That's been completely disregarded. And they've got communication while in FTL, basically. Either that, or because they didn't mention that the ship was traveling via faster than light, it was just traveling at sublight speeds from the outer colonies to an inner colony planet.
No, they weren't doing that.
In the space of about an hour, or maybe... It's described as... The only reference of time is one of the characters asks if there's any food, and you see them having a meal. So... however hungry you could get in the length of one meal's time, right? Like, so maybe like 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
In which the UNSC asks an outer colonies girl to record a propaganda message asking the colonies to stand down because of an alien invasion. She is, of course, not in the mood to do this, given her entire colony and everyone she ever knew was just slaughtered. And she has been kidnapped by the UNSC and is on this ship. So she takes that rather well, which I understand. But the person they got to do it was Miranda Keyes, which in the games is a captain of a ship and the daughter of Catherine Halsey and the other Captain Keyes, the captain on the Pillar of Autumn in Halo 1.
From Halo 1, right.
Yeah. She's now like a scientist studying xenobiology, of which canonically there could not have been a department before the Covenant showed up, because they didn't have any contact with any alien races before the Covenant. So she's like sending this message, this slip space message, a full hologram body display from what looks like a mortician's area, like they're in a, what do you call the place where you put a bunch of morgues? There's like slabs everywhere, and there's people like dissecting aliens behind them that are all like, it's just a weird place for her to be like, I'm gonna stand around and have a chat with my dad because he's telling me that he's about to order like a little girl to be murdered, and like,
yeah,
it's just a weird set for stuff to be set in. But at least they got like little details there, right? Which is like all the aliens that they're dissecting and doing research on in the background all have battle scar like injuries. Like you see them like with their shoulders blown off from, or like covered in frag grenade shrapnel and stuff like that. They didn't just have pristine bodies in the background. They like took the care to make sure you knew that they were collecting these bodies from combat to be researched upon. So that someone's obviously taking care in the set design. Just
of course. There's always people who are doing a really good job at something on these things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the big problem here is, I get it from both sides. They don't just want to do generic space show because that's really hard to attract viewers to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if they haven't heard of this, then it depends on word of mouth, basically.
Right.
But if you attach the name Halo to it, there's a ready built fan base for it, and pretty much more people have heard of Halo than have played it, right?
Right. It's true.
So name recognition is very important when you're making a new TV show.
Mm-hmm.
But to use the name Halo and just disregard a lot of things about Halo lore, it just seems unnecessarily pooping on the fan base that you're taking advantage of, right?
Right. Yeah.
So like, I get why they do it, but man, is it a dick move? Like, just if you want to make your own thing, make your own thing. Don't piggyback on this thing you don't care about in a way that causes people who care about it pain. I don't know. Like, it's similar to what's going on with Wheel of Time, it seems. A lot of Wheel of Time fans are like, they just took the name and changed enough of it to where it's gross and I don't like it. But they used us to get attention to it. Because if Amazon just goes, we're doing our own generic fantasy show that no one's ever heard of this thing, then it doesn't succeed at all. And it's much harder to do. It's why they're doing the Lord of the Rings. They're not doing generic fantasy. They're doing Wheel of Time. They're doing Lord of the Rings. They're doing The Boy. They're adapting existing properties because it's easier to get attention for them if it's an existing property.
Which is weird because Amazon at the same time was like, hey, we're doing a generic fantasy video game called New World. Everyone come play. And people did.
That's an excellent point. They pulled it off with video games. Why don't they believe they can do it with their TV and movie programming? I don't know.
I don't
know. Maybe they're different people. Like maybe just different heads of it. I'm sure it is. Different people are in charge of the video game side of it versus the TV and movie side of it. But yeah, you'd think the success of New World would be enough to be like, we believe in our capability to hire some really intelligent, creative people to make something new that will be attractive to people, to viewers. But they haven't done it yet.
Apparently not. Apparently no. Nope.
And what's also weird is I can say that they did a great job with, I mean, I think The Boys has been really well received by fans of The Boys. And Invincible has been really well received by fans of Invincible. And Reacher was really well received by fans of Reacher. So they can do it. Like, they understand that they can make something that the fans of the property enjoy and has wider appeal, which all three of those things managed to pull off. Why aren't they doing it? Oh, wait, this is Paramount Plus.
Yeah.
Oh. So I've been ranting about Amazon this whole time because I thought the Halo was on the Amazon.
Well, here's the thing. That's where I watch it, because you can buy a Paramount Plus channel subscription on Prime Video. So
Gotcha.
it feels like it's an Amazon show.
Yeah, but it's not. That's the difference. Amazon knows how to do it. Paramount Plus doesn't know how to do it. They're entirely different people.
I guess.
All the way up and down.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Screw you, Paramount Plus.
I've been tempted to go back and watch the first episode of Halo and then just make a text document of all the changes and what they mean.
Oh, no. No.
But I feel like that would be a waste of my time. Like, I would just get angry again.
Yeah. No, I think so too.
Because honestly, you can stop and like really pull apart things and just be like, they've fundamentally changed the way like gravity works. So it's like it's on that level of change, you know. Like,
well,
my biggest pet peeve is that the UNSC have not kept Spartans as a secret program, right? That we're only, I think they give like a year, like we're either 1 or 2 years into war with the Covenant, and the insurrectionists and the colonists on the Outer Rim, or whatever you want to call it, think that Spartans are still slaughtering separatists, basically, you know, and that the Covenant is UNSC propaganda to disguise their actions. Like, oh, we aren't really fighting aliens. We're just like being killed off by some Spartans. Like, Spartans are coming into colonies and slaughtering everyone.
Which, sure, right?
It's a thing that could make sense, but not in Halo. Because the Spartans are incredibly, like, there are so small a number of them that you, like, even people who had seen them wouldn't know what they've seen and wouldn't be able to match any stories. Like, originally in the Spartan 2s, there was like 35 of them. That's it, right? You start spreading them out in teams of 4 or less. It's going to be very hard, and like, just terms of timeline, that the Spartans already have shields like on their suits. They're on like the level of technology that they're being equipped with is like the shielding marks, like the Mark 5, I think it is, Mjolnir armor. But before that, they didn't always have Mjolnir armor, and they were doing very stealthy reconnaissance work. Like, the first mission that the Spartans get deployed on is to basically go and assassinate a colonel or something who defected from the UNSC in the books. And it's just like, the Spartans were considered top secret, and then their presence was revealed for morale after the Covenant started like glassing entire worlds. Yeah, so it's just really weird that they're like, oh, the Covenant are glassing worlds, but here are these people in these backwater places who don't believe that. It's like, I don't know. It doesn't work for me. It doesn't sound like Halo, and like, these little backwater planets are being attacked by a dropship, like a phantom dropship with 21 elites on it. Like, that's it. That's the entire invading force.
It's not, Nope. I mean, no, simply no.
It's wonderfully brutal and gory at times, where like the plasma blasts blow people apart and the energy swords like cut through people and steel. There's a scene where one of the guys gets like stabbed and held up in the air with the sword, and I'm like, shouldn't the sword, like, his body just like slide down? It doesn't do it, but it should. But other than that, it's fine.
So yeah, if this was generic sci-fi show and all the names were different and the aliens were different, then like, sure, much easier to enjoy if you're a Halo fan.
Yep, much easier. Yeah.
Because I am seeing some pretty good responses to it from people who don't know anything about Halo. So they did the part of the equation that part correct.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the other part that they screwed up on.
Mm-hmm. I think they've been a little too keen to bring in characters who should know each other, but don't necessarily operate with each other. Like Miranda Keyes and her dad, whose first name still eludes me. I just remember him as Captain Keyes. Because it's very strange that this family, who is not really a family, like Catherine Halsey, married to her work, had a little fling with
Jacob.
Thank you. I know it's not with J. I was reaching for John. I'm like, no, that's the chief.
Internet helped.
Yeah,
Thanks, internet.
Internet's always there for me. But like, all three of them are like stationed at the same military facility on Reach, you know, and like Jacob's walking to his daughter to talk to her personally. It's like, oh, the complex is small enough that he can just walk down and hand deliver his daughter orders and updates on the situation and stuff like that. It doesn't seem like that's really needed from a storytelling perspective. Like, there's no sense of scale to the UNSC. It feels like a military on one world, like one military base at the moment. Because Oni's headquarters is not strictly, like, Oni and the UNSC aren't strictly the same things. They're two different entities.
Yeah.
And so Oni's headquarters is typically in Sydney, back on Earth. So you could spread these things out, give it a sense of scale. They don't do that. Yeah.
There's a few complaints.
There's complaints at like the storytelling level of what they are building that isn't strictly Halo. Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah. That's just me. Some people might like it.
Yeah, it just seems like the more you know about Halo, the worse it is for you. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, tune in next week where I complain about the second episode.
Yeah,
Which will come out tomorrow.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. No.
All right. Well, good. Is that it for us then?
I believe so.
Okay, very good. So that is going to be it for this episode of the Falcon Paladin Hour with Somicron. Again, you can check us out at twitch.tv/Somicron, where we broadcast this live on Tuesday nights and maybe Wednesday mornings and afternoons if you're in Australia.
Yes, next week we'll have gone through daylight savings, and this will be at 11 a.m. Sydney time.
There you go. 11 a.m. Sydney time and 9 p.m. Eastern U.S. time.
There you go.
And there are VODs out there too, also on Somicron's YouTube channel.
True facts.
So yeah, check that out. Also, you can support the podcast directly at patreon.com/Somicron, SOMICRON, and then also falconpaladin.store is where merch is available too if you're into that. So again, thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for listening to us rant about StarCraft and nerdy stuff, and we'll do it again next week. And until then, stay safe and stay healthy, and above